This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio.
Hello and welcome to IndieLive.radio. I'm here with Val from Pensioners for Indie. She's going to be co-hosting with me. Val, great to see you again.
Good to see you too, Kevin.
I'm just trying to work these cameras with this iPad, but it's a bit shaky. Wait there, fixing the cameras for the live stream, folks. That's a bit better. Bit better. Okay, that's a bit better. Right, folks, we've got a really good show this morning. We've got is it called Jane Phillips at 11:30?
Yeah, Jane from Dundee and Angus Independence Group. They've been very active up in Dundee, so she would have liked to have been here, but she's going to speak to us on the phone.
Oh, that's brilliant. Right, I did update our calendar on the website, and it said we're contacting at 12:30, but it's 11:30. And
sorry, I think that's my mistake.
No, it's not a problem. And it's at 12:30 we've got
Margaret Malcolm. Margaret's very active in the northwest of the city of Glasgow. She's a member of Yes Glasgow Northwest. I'm a member of that group too. We've been quite active. We've had quite a lot. I won't say too much about it because obviously we'll be talking to Margaret about what Yes Glasgow Northwest have been doing. They're a very proactive group, and she'll be telling you about what they've done in the past and what kind of things they're planning in the future.
This is why we have Yes Group Friday. It's to find out what groups are doing around Scotland. And I think that's really interesting. Good that other people can hear it, because maybe we'll get ideas, and it might give other folk ideas. Good things to do.
What has impressed me about Yes Glasgow Northwest is they have a real, although it's a big city, Glasgow, they've got a real sort of on the ground knowledge of their own community. They know it really well, and they're very kind of hands-on and out on the streets. So it's a very and it's a really good group of people.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. Dundee, Yes City of Dundee. It's sometimes there's not events going on. You don't really know what's happening in other parts of Scotland.
Yeah.
And again,
I've been at some of their events up in Dundee because I'm friendly with Jane, and I was up last week actually, and I suggested to her about maybe talking to us on Indie Live Radio, so she's quite keen.
That's fantastic.
They've had a lot of really great events, but again, I won't go into it because that might spoil. But I mean, one of the ones I attended was a pro-Europe event, so not anti-Brexit, but pro-Europe, and it was a great celebration of Europe and the part that new European Scots play here in Scotland, and there were people from all sorts of nationalities speaking at that event. It was a beautiful summer's day, and it was in the open air in the middle of Dundee. It was just fantastic.
Oh, that's excellent. I'm just I've got to mention Norrie. Norrie's having a break at the moment.
Is he having a wee holiday?
Yeah, so a well-earned break, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Norrie, if you're tuning in, have a great one. Don't tune in fact. Just get out of the house.
I hope he really has a good and a nice break, and then because he works so hard, like yourself, Kevin.
He does, doesn't he?
I hope you're scheduling in a wee break for yourself too at some point.
Well, it could be 2 weeks' time. I'm off for a very well-earned break as well.
I know that the Pensioners for Indie, we're coming in next Friday. We're doing with Norrie, we're doing a sort of special edition next Friday. Good. So we've got a few speakers lined up for you next Friday.
Yeah, that's great. I tell you what, there's what time is it? It's 10 past, right? I'll put on a bit of music, right? And we'll come back and have a little chat about some other stuff, okay? And I think Jilly might be coming in later.
Oh, that would be good. That'd be nice to see her.
What about a bit of Amy MacDonald, Mr. Rock and Roll? You up for that?
She's a great supporter of independence.
She is. I did actually send her a message to say she'd come on Twitter, but who are we, right? So that's why we need to build this up. We get more followers, etc., right? And we'll be working on that. I mean, we've been doing all this techie stuff, but we'll come back and talk about that after this. Bit of music. Come on, Amy.
This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio.
Okay, we're back. Washing your hair, is it? Okay, so yeah, that if you're watching the live stream, you might have noticed it went on to some graphics there. So we've got it set up so that when it detects music, right, this is a bit techie here, there's a trigger and it flicks on graphics and puts on this little jingle, I hope, right, and that's to stop us, you know, we can't live stream music, as you know, Val, copyright reasons, right? So I've tried to set this up to see if it works. Hopefully it does, but because I can't, I can't monitor it because I'm here presenting. So
I'll have a look when I'm at home listening.
Well, if the music's good out with is slapped out, then we might get into trouble with Facebook and all that. Who knows? You know, but not to worry. This is for indie, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so something I wanted to talk about, and when we started Indie Live Radio, right, it was obvious, right, if you look about you, Phil, right, the tech set up and all this, right, now this is Independence Live as well.
Yeah.
You can use this exact set up as I did with Ben Ray on Friday to do this. But we you know, you can't have to, you know, me and Nori couldn't have done this ourselves. So there's a lot of people behind the scenes. One of the things we identified was like a research department. And that's in progress and it's working. And the two people we're talking to today is down to you and Marlon, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, the research department is pensioners for Indie. You know, Fiona does everything. And, you know,
well, Marlene and I haven't done much so far, but we're getting into it, and hopefully we're helping you set up guests, contacting guests, and also doing some research, and so that you've got some background at your fingertips.
Absolutely.
We're just kind of learning as we go.
I think that's the same for all of us. I mean, you come up with an idea and say a research department, but it's what is that, right? And you've got to work out the best way to do stuff. You know, and communicate stuff and information and all that. And it does take time, but everything is progressing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the last time I was in here was with the author, Alan Martin, and his wife, Vivian, and I really enjoyed that interview. And that wasn't me, it was someone else that suggested Alan, but I contacted him and arranged the interview and read his book, and which was totally very enjoyable. It was great. Yeah,
both Vivian and Martin. Really, really good people.
Yeah, Vivian had an article in the iScot magazine that just came out there. So that was quite good. She recommended another book to me, which I've since read, set in Orkney. So yeah.
What's it called?
It's called The Canary Keeper. By, oh my goodness, that's terrible. Claire, I've forgotten the author's second name. That's really bad. I'll need to check it and come back to you. That's the pensioners for Indie Brain kicking in. But it was a thoroughly enjoyable, very unusual book, set partly in Victorian London and partly in Strominus in Orkney. So it was great. I'll need to check that and tell you after the next break.
The next song, right? We'll have you can go find that out. Okay, folks, it's we'll be phoning. Is it Margaret from Dundee?
Jane. Margaret's coming in later, so we're going to phone Jane Phillips.
Jane, so we're still getting another 10 minutes.
That's great.
So we're okay there. I mean, it's been so rushed this morning. I've been running about like a mad person trying to go the techie sorted. And
you've done all that yourself?
Yeah, and hopefully Jilly's coming in.
I wouldn't be much use to help you with the technical side, I'm afraid.
It's okay, everything, and it's due time, you know what I mean? Okay, so I tell you what, a little bit of music. Biffy Clyro.
Oh yeah,
yes.
That's a wee bit after my time, but I think my friends. I know somebody who knows their mums and dads. That's a kind of lets you know my age group there. But yeah, I know they're big support. They're also big supporters of independence, I believe.
Well, with your researcher hat on, Val, could you try and get them on?
I think people like that tend to have very busy schedules, but you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
We use Trello, right? Have you seen some of the people that I've put on it? Did
well, you know, aim for the stars. There's no point in not aiming high.
Absolutely. We need to see, like, if we can get Alan Bissett on, etc. There's loads, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, here's a bit of Biffy coming up.
This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio.
Sorry about that, folks. I had to go and do a bit of techie with Val. Okay, so
get the staff nowadays.
That was a quick jump round the other side of the desk to sort out the browser to get the national up there. But all cool once you've done it once. Do you know what I mean? Val, what's the big story?
So I was reading the National this morning. I've got an online subscription, so I sort of usually start the day by reading it every morning in my bed. So this morning, the big headline story is the story. The sort of Project Fear news story busted by the experts, and that's an exclusive investigation by the National, which basically is that the academic paper. It's about rebutting the story that appeared in the Times very recently, saying that inward investment into Scotland and the economy of Scotland was being adversely affected by rumours and the prospect of IndyRef 2. And it's been found that is nonsense and that it's not hurting property investment. It's been rejected that the research that it was based on is very flimsy, not a proper academic study, based on interviews with a tiny amount of people, and it's basically been discredited. So that's the main story in the National today.
It's everything and anything's going to be thrown at us.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
Like it was the first time.
Exactly. You know, it's it'll be worse this time.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of what they said before is proven to be lies,
People have short memories sometimes, so don't
That's
they?
what they rely on, I'm afraid, isn't it?
I did say that to somebody who wasn't an independent supporter. I was talking to them and I said, but what about all the promises that were made to you the last time? Most of those, almost all of those have not been honoured. And she said to me, oh, well, but politicians all lie. And I thought, that's such a pessimistic outlook. I mean, okay, they're not always the most truthful of people, but to like accept that that's the way things are, I thought was a philosophy of despair, really.
It really is, isn't it? Well,
and I think I think that's the thing, that we have to keep presenting like a positive vision of what Scotland could be like when we get our independence, and the fact that we don't need to go the negative and inward looking way that England seems to be going, and to keep repeating and not just saying but showing by the way we are that it is an outward looking thing, and this idea that it's anti-English is just nonsense. And the best way that people can do that is to show it by the way they behave.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there any other stories that grab your attention?
Yeah, the other one that there's a very good article by Shona Craven about Trump, about this attack on the Squad. The 4 women of colour who are who've been criticising the immigration policy, particularly on the board, for immigration in the centres in which little children and adults are held in terrible conditions. And that's a really worth reading, Shona Craven's article. I like her stuff. She's really good.
Well, on that topic, right, on Monday, right, I'm going to be interviewing Sue Parsons.
All right.
Who's from Boston, the USA.
Excellent.
And she loves coming to Scotland. She was here for a year many years ago, and she in Boston she deals with immigration, refugees, etc. So I'll be asking her lots of questions about that. Great. And Trump, her thoughts on Trump. Also,
I must admit, my blood just ran cold when I saw that clip of him at a mass rally, and obviously really relishing the fact that people were. He's really kindling up hatred against these women and putting them in a potentially very dangerous position.
He doesn't care, does he?
No.
The guy's completely lacking something, isn't he?
Another story that's sort of rolling on from the last few days, I think you were talking about it the other day on air, was this thing about Scotland being the drugs capital of the world, or the developed world. There's a really interesting article by David Pratt, the foreign correspondent.
Oh yeah, David Pratt, yeah, really
about heroin, and about, because he travels as a war correspondent, he's travelled a lot to like Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And that's a really, really good article. That's really worth reading too.
It'd be good to get David on at some point as well, actually, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, I think he might be open to that. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I think we had him. He agreed to speak at a meeting that we were organising in the past, in my local SNP branch, and he very kindly said, but unfortunately, as he's a foreign correspondent, he can get called away at short notice, and that is indeed what happened. So we weren't lucky enough to have him speak, but maybe even he would do it on the telephone. So
yeah, we could do that.
We could look into.
That's a great thing about radio, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't need to have people on here. In the studio, we can just give them a quick call.
Another story that jumped out at me as well was another sort of attempt to sideline and sort of do down the Scottish Government that Boris Johnson has already announced, even though he's not officially been made Prime Minister yet, that on his first trip to Scotland he won't meet Nicola.
Oh dear.
I'm sure she'll be heartbroken.
Well done there, Nicola's dodged a bullet, did she?
Yeah.
having to pretend, you know, she likes this guy. I mean, is this the worst US president ever? Who knows, but in our lifetime anyway. I thought things were scraping the barrel with George Bush Jr. and taking us to Iraq and all that, and then again we Tony Blair, didn't we? Wow,
he's really starting to look like an intellectual giant now compared to Trump, isn't he?
Yes, indeed. I mean, he's so bad. He's so bad.
It's frightening, really. You know, I think what really makes me most worried and disgusts me, really, if I can be honest, is the fact that even when his supporters see, you know, the extremes that he goes to in terms of racism, misogyny, and all the scandal that's coming out that would have destroyed any other president, they just seem to accept it and they don't care.
It's just like, he's just a guy.
Did you know that since that clip of him at the rally and quite clearly enjoying people shouting "Send her back," I think it was that what they were chanting? Yeah. "Send her back," that his popularity ratings have jumped by 5 points, which just makes you think that's what really shakes my faith in human nature.
Yeah, it's and a lot is tied into religion, and you know, tell me Trump's a Christian, forget it. I don't know what that guy is, but he's anything but a Christian. But anyway, we should be phoning Jane.
Yeah.
So let's give it a go. I've got another break note on, so we're all good here. Let me try and find Jane. And
you've got her number there?
Got her number here. So all I need to do is give her a call. Fingers crossed here, right? Fingers crossed. Here it goes. You hear that? Ding, ding, ding. Well, hi, is that Jane Phillips? Jane, this is Kevin from Indie Live Radio, and I'm here with Val from Pensioners for Indie, Glasgow.
Hi, Jane.
So Jane, tell me all about the Dundee and Angus Indie Group. What is up to? What is you get planned? Tell us all your secrets.
And a core of activists who are joined by others in the group, you know, kind of ebbs and flows a wee bit, depending on what the event is that we're organising. And we've had, you know, the activities vary from, well, we've had lots of speakers. We've had the wee Ginger Doug, of course, who hasn't he? Yeah. And we've had Greg Moody and Billy Kay, and politicians such as Stuart Hosey, Chris Law. And we also had, last September, we had Philippa Whitford, who talked to a group of about 80 people on what's going to happen to the Scottish Health Service under Brexit. Yeah. And basically what we've tried to do is to have a kind of outreach programme. You know, it's called Imagine Indie, where we go into communities and provide like a free cafe and speak to the people who turn up there, people who live in those areas, generally areas which have got quite high levels of deprivation, and try and get them to think about how their communities could be improved by independence. And then we had a Europe Festival last year on the 14th of July. Valerie was there.
Yeah.
You'll remember.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, Jane. It was great. It was a great event.
Do you enjoy it? Yeah,
it was fantastic.
It was to highlight and kind of celebrate the contribution to Scottish life of our EU citizens, and we had a lot of support from politicians who spoke at the event. Again, we had Chris and Stuart. We also had Eve Bollender, the Glasgow Provost, so it was great to welcome her there.
Yeah.
And these were quite big events, but you know, we also do a lot of kind of smaller, high-impact events. Just recently, beginning in May, we did Journeys to Independence, where we had 3 speakers who had formerly been no voters but were now yes voters, and we thought it'd be interesting to get them to provide an insight into how no voters might be persuaded to support independence.
Oh, that's a good one.
We had Murray Foote, the former Daily Record editor. We had Morven Elson-Jones, a teacher from Fife, who had previously been a Lib Dem voter and now is not, and is now a supporter of independence. And we had Ashley Grashik, who's a former Tory councillor. She's now an independent councillor, but she had been a no and is now a yes.
Wow.
So these were quite interesting.
She's a great
we also had a big, some of our members arranged a big conference in Edinburgh working with Aberdeen Independence Movement on working towards independence. Again, how to listen to people and persuade them to yes. So a lot of our work has been doing, thinking about approaches to persuading people to the benefits of independence.
Wow.
But
I'm really impressed.
Sorry, you want to say?
Yeah, I'm saying I'm really impressed with this stuff.
Well, we've had a few, as I say, quite smaller hits, but equally effective, I think, Tomorrow we're actually hosting a performance of a one-man play, 3,000 Trees, about the death of Willie McRae. That was a sellout, it's Andy Patterson, I think his name is. That was a sellout at the Fringe a couple of years ago, so we're hosting it at the Steps Theatre at the Central Library in Dundee tomorrow.
Fantastic.
There's a few tickets available, but on the door, but for anybody outside Dundee, like if anybody's listening in Glasgow and they fancy it, you'll get tickets on brown paper tickets for that.
That's brilliant.
And of course the National Roadshow is coming to Dundee on the 21st of August. And sort of forthcoming events, there's a couple actually. There's Taste of Scotland. We're just in negotiation for this just now. We're looking at the food produced by the Scottish farming and fishing industries. We're still arranging it, but at the moment we've got a couple of speakers lined up. Donna Fordyce from Seafood Scotland and Jim Fairley, who's a cattle and sheep farmer. So, as I say, arrangements are just ongoing for that. And let's see. One of the main
Jane,
kind of purposes. Sorry,
Jane. That should be a really great event, with Angus being such an important area for farming, and particularly like the soft fruits and everything like that. Should be really
I think
popular.
a lot of people in Angus are waking up to what's going to happen to them with Brexit. And if Angus had, although it had an SNP MP, it had kind of been quite conservative, small C, area, very careful, and I think they thought they were maybe on a safer bet with the last election. But I think now they're realising actually what they're getting into, and there's an increasing support in Angus and surrounding areas for, well, at least to be receptive to the ideas of what an independent Scotland could do for them to get out of this mess that we're in,
Yeah, that's good. Val, any thoughts on that?
Just to say that Jane and I have been pals for quite a long time, since we met at university in Glasgow.
We were just girls.
Back in the days when dinosaurs roamed the earth, So, and I've been up at a couple of their events, and they really were excellent. The one, that European one that Jane mentioned already, was really great. With people of all sort of backgrounds who are now, great contribute, as Jane said, making a huge contribution to Scotland, and lots and lots of different languages were used to read out messages in their own languages. Must have been about 10, 12 different languages, which I thought was brilliant. And also the other one that was really good, Jane, was when you had Leslie Riddick showing one of her nation films.
Oh yes,
I think you've actually done more than one, haven't you?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
I can't remember.
Leslie's spoken to us a couple of times, and she did bring her films. Actually, she brought Iceland and
I think it was the Iceland one I saw. And then I've seen the other two. Later on today, Jane, we've got, in about an hour, we've got Margaret Malcolm coming in from Yes Glasgow Northwest, and that's the group I'm a member of, and we hosted an event with Leslie in Drumchapel showing the Norway one, and and then, now wait a minute, let me get them right. Am I right? Is it the Faroe Islands, Iceland and Norway? Is that right? Is that the three?
That's correct, yeah.
So I think it was maybe the Faroes one I saw with you, and then we hosted the one on Iceland, and then the Norway one I saw with the Yes Clydebank down in Clydebank Town Hall. So these films are highly recommended. They're
quite inspirational, aren't they?
Very much.
They really,
Jane,
that'll be good then.
I'm really interested in what you said about the community. See, your community idea. Like, can you maybe tell us maybe the effects it's having in local people? Did you get much feedback you can give us? How did it go down? Your community.
Well, we had a lot of. The first one we went to was our very first event. Actually, it was done on a shoestring, and we got the whole community involved. Like for raffle and tombola prizes, we went to the local shopkeepers who were very supportive and gave us things like a voucher for fish suppers, and
now you're talking.
Excellent, the winner.
And. And we got the Yes Bikers up, and so that went really quite well, and it kind of gave us the courage and to go forward. So our next one was up at Lochee, which again has quite high levels of deprivation, and again we had great support from local shopkeepers. One local baker, I actually went to him and asked him if I could buy rolls at cost price to make up sandwiches. Well, he gave us a tray of 100 filled rolls, for nothing.
Wow.
So this is kind of support we were getting from the local traders.
Yeah.
And again, we had lots of people there, and we had counsellors there to speak to people to address particular problems they had. And what we wanted to present to them was just what the Scottish government and the Scottish councils and just ourselves, what we can do to help each other. And this is the way forward for Scotland. We want something that takes communities very much in mind and helps our communities and addresses the difficulties and improves lives for people. So we didn't have anything like concrete feedback, but people were had enjoyed it and were very positive on the way out, and comments on Facebook and things like that were very positive. And our last one that we went to recently was Strawswell, again an area of high deprivation, and again we got very positive responses for that. But what was quite interesting was that we decided that rather than just go in and then move on, we thought we would return to let people know that we're building a relationship here, but let them know that this isn't us just moving in and moving on. We're actually here to work with them, here to stay. And people were really pleased to see us again. They were happy that we'd come back. So
see, this is really
I don't know
good.
how you measure the success of something like that,
but
it felt as if people were pleased to see us.
So this is really good, being able to tell everybody else that's listening, maybe for other groups, some of these kind of ideas that are going on. I think it's really positive. I'll
tell you quite a good event for groups. We had, our one from No TS, so we had former No voters.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's quite an easy event to organise. And actually, we had contact. Philippa Whitford contacted us and asked us about setting how we did it. So they're thinking about doing it in her area, her constituency. So that's quite an easy one to organise.
Can you tell us a bit about it?
Whether just local people or folks that are in the news who might be willing to speak to you.
Right. So it's like local people and maybe.
Well, that sounds like a really good
the Morven
idea.
character. I used to teach beside her, so she's just one of the ground, the foot soldiers in the teaching profession, and she so she was just, if you like, the kind of ordinary person, whereas the other two were probably a bit more high profile,
What was, out of matter of interest, can you tell us why Morven went from No to TS?
Basically, it was Europe. She emailed me about 9 months ago, and she said, Jane, she swithered in 2014, but ultimately she came down on the side of no because she feared being taken out of Europe, and she listened to the promises and the threats, and she decided that she would say no to stay in Europe. And then, of course, on comes Brexit, and she signed petitions, and she spoke to her MP and all that sort of thing. And she got in touch with me. She said, Jane, they're not listening to us. We are out of Europe. They're going to drag us out. And I've handed back, she was a lifelong Lib Dem member, I've handed back my Lib Dem card, and I'll be voting yes in the next referendum. And since then, she's spoken to us. She's become quite political now in a small way. She was always a kind of thoughtful, careful person, very nice person, and I believe that she took that decision in 2014 with the best of intentions and took it honestly. But she just equally honestly said we were lied to, and she's voting yes next time.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, more of those stories, please.
Can I ask a question? Can I just ask? So I think I'm really intrigued by what you're saying about that event, Jane. I've seen other people advertising that, but it's good to hear more about it. I think that's something we would maybe look to try and emulate.
It's quite straightforward to organise, and living where you do in Glasgow, I'm sure you could get a good mix of ordinary people and more high profile too.
How did you advertise it? How did you get those local contacts that were,
we just wrote to them.
Yes.
I knew Morven, so when she sent that to me, I said, would you speak to people about how you're feeling? And she was a wee bit worried, but then she said, yeah. And then we knew somebody who knew Murray Foot, so and then we wrote just directly to Ashley Grashik, and I think she'd spoken at the Aberdeen conference, actually, if I remember correctly. So somebody had her phone number. So we just got in touch and asked her.
Ashley, I heard her speak. She was a really great speaker.
Can you give me the background of Ashley?
Ashley Grashik is, like Jane said, she used to be a Tory councillor in Edinburgh. She spoke at our Pensioners for Indy AGM just a few months back, and the way she explained it was that she was elected as a Tory councillor, but through her casework in Edinburgh, dealing with people, she became increasingly disillusioned with the policies of austerity, and she could see firsthand the impact and the damage that these policies from Westminster were causing, and because of that, she became an independent councillor. She resigned the Tory whip. She was no longer a member of the Tory party, and then eventually she came around to the idea that because of these policies from Westminster, that the only way that we were going to get a more socially just society was through independence. I think I'm right in saying more or less. Is that more or less? Would you agree with that, Jane?
Absolutely, yep,
yeah. That's the sort of in a nutshell kind of thing. Yeah.
I think she's a very engaging speaker too. That she's kind of witty and funny. A nice laugh in her voice. She's great. So I think she would be quite persuasive.
She's very engaging. She was really funny and very likeable. Yeah,
indeed.
So you two going to be talking again about this idea? No to yes.
Definitely, yeah. I think that's something. We'll maybe talk to Margaret about it later when she comes in.
Okay, so anything.
That's not a difficult one to set up.
Right.
And you can set it up somewhere. Maybe it was a bar and stuff, a little bit of supper, or we just had a little bar and people had a drink. It was a nice summer night, and they just sat with a glass of wine and listened to the speakers, and then had a bit of a Q&A, and it went by very well.
That sounds great.
I mean, basically, that is the holy grail that we're all aiming for is no to yes. I mean, that's what we have to do is convert. I mean, there are some people that will never, ever change their mind about wanting independence for Scotland. They're sort of hardwired into the idea of the union. But there's a huge body of people in the middle. They're thoughtful, people who care about Scotland, but for various reasons, and I'm sure we all know folk like that, who, who have swallowed sometimes the propaganda about Scotland wouldn't be able to, we're a basket case economically, all this stuff about too wee, too poor and so on, that they really believe that Scotland is not capable of subsisting on its own, which is, as we know, having looked closely at these figures, is just not the case at all.
Another thing which struck me, especially it was in Morven's case, but I think it would be in all no to yes, because you said there's thoughtful people who have considered these things. There's the effect they will have on the people around them.
Absolutely.
Because, it's not just them. I'm thinking, for example, of Morven, and I'm thinking about her family and her friends. Yeah. And I say she's a very thoughtful and articulate woman, and I'm sure she'll be speaking to her family, and I'm sure she'll persuade some of them.
So it's like a snowball effect.
That's why it's so important.
Absolutely, yeah, that's really true. And I think we all sort of need to remember that as well, that, like, who was it that said that, if each one of us can change the mind of one person, we'll get independence. And I think that we have to remember that campaigning isn't always about making speeches and doing street stalls and putting leaflets through doors. That in some ways these are maybe some of the least effective ways, and that I think there's been a sort of taxonomy of what people trust, and one of the the highest is being told something from someone they know and are have confidence in and trust themselves, and that each person should try and not proselytise or preach, if you like, but just gradually, sow seeds of doubt or sow seeds of hope in the folk around them, but in their daily conversations with workmates in the pub, at the slimming group, or at the bowling club, or whatever, and it doesn't have to be like a big full-on political discussion. It can just be wee nuggets of things, or little seeds just dropped in here and there.
And you know what they say, like, be the change you want to be. If you're respectful and informed and thoughtful about it, people will see that and will, embrace that too. And because they say, well, if that's what it's going to be like in independent Scotland, where people are engaged and thoughtful and stuff, that's quite appealing,
Even down to a ludicrous extent, when I'm driving my car and I've got yes stickers on it, I never toot at people now, or I try and be, well, I like to think I'm a courteous driver, but I think that if you've got yes stickers in your car, you shouldn't be driving about like a maniac tooting at people that annoy you. I know, just on a lighter note.
Always, if I'm out delivering or anything, or on a stall or anything, I'm always extra polite and nice as an ambassador for Indy,
I'm busy here. I'm so glad you are talking together. I'm busy here looking at the social media, right? And I think I've actually deleted our Twitter Periscope live stream. But listen, another question. I don't know if you've noticed the stuff about the Tory MP Ross Thompson. He was on Politics Live, and he was talking about how we're all anti-English again.
I saw that.
And this is just a nasty myth. I mean, this is, we always knew that when the next independence referendum came, they would up the ante because they broke all the promise before, all the threats they carried out anyway. So I thought, what they're going to throw now is just viciousness, and that's what we're getting.
We actually invited him onto the show. the radio show.
And did he accept?
Well, he never got back to us, but got quite a few retweets. We could get somebody to do the interview, and get someone from English Scots for Yes. Ross Thompson could come on and tell us how much we dislike the English, right? I mean, that ultimately independence, it's democracy first, right? We've got to have the democracy, so that what people that live and work here, right, we choose our future. And at the moment, obviously,
I just can't see what the problem with that is. It's just so just.
Well, I think people for various reasons worried about their pensions, or worried about they've fallen for the line that we're too poor, even though even by their own figures, right, we're third as far as regions is concerned, right, in the UK, right, and only London and the South East are bigger. The rest of the UK. Whoops, give us a sec.
Hello?
Wait there.
Now is the time for another independence referendum.
Wait there.
Now is the time for
Sorry
another
about
independence
that. I was too busy looking at social media and getting into that chat there that I forgot what was happening on the radio software. This is a problem. You're completely multitasking.
And I'm no use, Jane, at helping him. He's doing it all on his own. I'm just sitting here talking.
It's a tricky one. But
sorry, continue what you're saying.
Yeah, I've just noticed something else that I'm going to have to deal with. I'll tell you what, why don't you talk while I sort stuff out?
What were you going to say there, Jane?
Well, it was just something about what you're talking about, speaking to neighbours and colleagues and people in the pub and swimming group and stuff. One of the things we discussed a couple of meetings ago was this idea. It sprung out of the announcement about the citizens' assemblies, and what a good idea it was that people speak and actually understand the issues, and not and just get the facts and learn what the story is behind it. And one of our members said that this was a great idea, and that we should be looking at different ways to speak to people, and in our case, persuade them to the the benefits of independence, and along the ideas of kind of, is it the kitchen conversations that they had in Catalonia? You would invite some folk for a coffee and a bit of cake and just talk to them about it, and then and people know that they're coming to talk, I suppose, about that. But it's not a threatening and highly charged situation, and it's friendly. So that might be a way forward too.
Well, that in Pensioners for Indie, we've also sort of been working on a sort of soft way of getting the message out, and that's through our singing group. I think I told you about that, didn't I?
I love that idea.
And we've specifically targeted going to like old folks' homes, but also like day centres where old folk we've got a cheek to say old folk, because I'm not exactly spring chickens myself now, but even older. Well, I think so anyway. It was quite funny because one of the concerts we did out in the East End, it went down really well. It was all Burns songs. That was like back in January, and people were very receptive, and they did really seem to enjoy it. We had a few recitations, but mainly Burns songs, and so we sort of sat beside the folk at the tea time and had a wee chat, and there was a really old man there, and I said to him, and did you enjoy it okay? And he clearly wasn't, he was too polite to say no, but he wasn't mad about it. So I said, so Billy, is it not really your cup of tea, this Scottish music? And he says, no really, hen. I says, what kind of music do you like? And he looked at me and he went, Coldplay. Which I thought was really funny. We were giving them My Love Is Like a Red, Red Rose and all that. So anyway, so we did a wee...
You're going to expand your repertoire, get a wee bit of Coldplay in there.
Well, I don't know about that. Our current repertoire is, again, all Scottish songs. But we've put in, there's quite a few that have got a real... The idea of, like, it's not all to do with, like, logic and facts. A lot of it's to do with, hearts and minds, really, and the way that things make you feel. And there's a few songs there. Like, one of the ones we do is... it's not a Scottish song, it's This Land Is My Land, This Land Is Your Land, the Woody Guthrie song, but there's a Scottish version with I think it was written by the folk band Gabber Lindsay.
And all right, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, well, I'll sing it to some.
I'll check it
after a couple of gins. Have you
I'll go for it now.
Oh no, I'm not going to sing it just now. And we've also even put in a couple of extra verses, to up, like about New Scots and so on. So, so and they seem to really like that.
It's quite exciting, everything that's going on. Actually, it's after and I think about the sort of summer of 2014, and it was so sort of highly charged and innovating, and that hasn't. It's not really gone. It didn't die away, but what's emerging now is a new, confident and determined, same sort of thing, multifaceted approach to persuading people, and I think it's great.
Like we're in the early days of a better nation.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what I feel.
It definitely feels a lot more sober this time.
What really annoys me though is when you get folk moaning and whining on about, why don't they declare indie ref? But people can be campaigning now. You don't need a date of an indie ref. I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Like your group, look at all that you've been doing, and lots of yes groups, are out doing street stalls, having public meetings, and just keeping the idea of an independent Scotland on the agenda. And I don't think, having an actual date is, well, that's my view anyway. I don't think having an actual date is that important.
And I think also, keeping it on the agenda, it's kind of normalising the idea as well.
Yeah.
That we had a discussion about the 2014. It was like almost like we dared to dream, and we didn't. Well, we didn't get the dream then, but we're awake now, and we're working towards it. You know what I mean? And it's normalising this idea that we can look after ourselves, and we can benefit our own communities, and we can be good neighbours, and we can trade with the rest of the world. We can be an independent country, and that is that's what we've been doing since 2014, normalising that idea, I think.
Jane, we've got about another minute, just under a minute before we come up to the news, right? So can you tell us about your event that's coming up again?
One tomorrow?
Yeah.
It's a performance of a one-man play. It's Andy Patterson, I think his name is. It's called 3,000 Trees, and it's the death of William McRae.
Okay, brilliant. Listen,
and there's a Q&A after it as well.
Okay. And
tickets on brown paper.
I was going to say that. Okay, so it's great having you on, and if you've got any news for us, please get in contact so that we can maybe have another quick chat, right? It can be quick chats we can do. It doesn't need to be as long as this, right?
Certainly will. As I've told you most of what's coming up in the future, but I'll keep you posted with things that are happening.
And we've got the research department here, Val and Marlon, so you're right in there. Okay, we've got a 5 seconds, 4 seconds. I think we're going to get cut off there.
Bye, Jane.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Jane. Thank you.
This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally livestream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally livestream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally livestream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally livestream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally livestream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally livestream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally livestream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally livestream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally livestream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music.
Just had Jilly come into the office there. Jilly, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you delightfully. Okay, so back to music.
This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio.
And welcome back. We're back in the office. Okay. Hi folks. We just had a little break there, didn't we, Val?
Yeah.
And we also had Jilly.
A welcome arrival of the lovely Jilly.
Jilly, she's in as well. I don't know if I can get the camera up to oh, it's taken off. I think it's taken off half your head there. Let's see, where's Jilly? Here's Jilly. Hi, Jilly. Oh, took off half your head there, but we'll get that fixed.
Plenty spare.
We'll get that sorted. Okay. Alrighty. So Val, that was really interesting, wasn't it? A good conversation with Jane, and
they've done so much there. I mean, in the space of 3 years, I mean, it's just fantastic. Very positive, very active in the community. A great group.
Yeah, and great ideas as well. I like their no to yes thing that they've got going.
Yeah.
You know, try to get local people, maybe someone that's more well known as well.
Yeah, I think Murray Foot's done quite a few of these events.
Yeah.
Mike Daly as well, is he another one that used to be a no voter?
That's right, he was at the forefront
of the Govan Law Centre.
Yeah, he was a big cheese for the no campaign, and he's totally turned it in his head.
Yeah.
We should try and get Mike in at some point, I would say. Researcher.
Another one for the research department. Remember, we're only supposed to be doing a little bit of this.
Oh, well, you know, once you start,
it's going to take over. I think I'm going to have to give up everything else.
It's so enjoyable, though, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Absolutely.
You know, and
I'm not complaining.
So it's all right. We can't fine you or anything like that. But
can't dock my wages because I'm not getting any.
We can't dock your wages. We can't, threaten you with stuff like that. But yeah, so I mean, the hope again. We talked about this earlier. That the big one of the points about Indie Live Radio. One of the things we can do is connect Scotland.
Making these connections.
In the yes groups, and we've got a big
reaching out to people.
Absolutely, and we do put the adverts saying, if you're a yes group, but I don't think that's working very much.
I think that the idea is to try and get people in to these meetings, because there is always that danger of that you're just talking to people that are already agreeing with you, and that's the big danger.
Yeah.
And Margaret will maybe talk a little bit more about that. Margaret Malcolm from Yes Glasgow North West will be with us shortly, and that is one of the things that Yes Glasgow North West have done is to spend some money on producing leaflets and going out, pounding the streets, leafleting all the local community, so that the meetings that we had in Knightswood, in Scotstoun and in Drumchapel, quite a lot of the people that came were not already decided for independence. And although we don't make a secret of the fact that it is organised by a Yes group, the title of the meeting is clear that it's of interest to people of all persuasions. So, for example, Brexit, or Jane mentioned Philippa Whitford. I defy anybody to listen to Philippa Whitford and not want to vote for an independent Scotland. She is just the most wonderful speaker.
It's a shame we can't replicate her.
She's just fantastic.
Replicating technology required.
So, but she goes to. I mean, she was saying there that Jane had said she'd spoken there, and I know she's spoken also. And she goes all over. And she came to Knightswood there, and we had a big meeting with about 120 people there, and she spoke. In actual fact, that was a really interesting meeting because. Well, maybe I shouldn't have preempt Margaret, but we'll talk more about that later. But some of the people that came were from Glasgow Loves EU, who are not necessarily supporters of independence, and they brought this huge banner with them. They were actually getting the flight at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. or something to go down to London to march, and everyone at the meeting, or as many as possible, signed the back of their banner, and so our names were all carried down to London on their banner. And Philippa is just the most wonderful speaker. She's really she doesn't even use notes. She's so genuine but so knowledgeable. And I think that the health service and the risk to the health service, if we stick with Brexit bound England, is one of the most terrifying things that people really worry about.
Again, it's just, Brexit bound England, independence, right? Democracy. We choose what we want to do as a country, wherever you're from, if you're living here, right? Democracy. It just goes to show you democracy not in action. When it came to the EU referendum. Yeah, the EU citizens were denied the vote. Yeah. And plus, 62% is voted to stay in, and we're getting pulled out. Where I stay in Glasgow North, it was over 78%. Yeah. And that's without, in Glasgow Kelvin, there are 5,000 European people of European citizens. I mean, we're European citizens still, but European citizens, non-UK ones, and they weren't. I mean, if you put their votes in there, I mean, it would be it'd probably be about 90%. It's unbelievable, really. That's shocking. Huge problems with the UK, isn't there? I mean, we're not a United Kingdom. There's 4 separate countries there, and the Prime Minister will be appointed by 0.3%, of 160,000 people who are mainly male, mainly over 70, and mainly living in the southeast of England. So it's not a representation at all. But that's the way it works. I think Jilly's is Jilly got something to say, has she?
Yeah, just when we were talking.
Oh, wait a minute. Jilly's coming in, I think. Jilly.
Hello, have you got me?
I haven't yet.
Oh, hang on.
Are you talking into it?
I am. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can't hear you at the moment, Jilly. I don't know why. We'll sort that out because we had it working earlier on. Okay, we'll come back to Jilly later. We had it working, our mic working, and then Jilly goes over, sits in the seat, and she's broke it. Just kidding. That was my fault, no doubt. Right. Okay, so Val, we've got it's Margaret's coming in. Margaret Malcolm from Glasgow Northwest is coming in at 12:30. Yeah, she should be here soon. Okay, so we've got about 5 minutes, right? Can you tell me a bit about Pensioners for Indy since I've got you here? If you put your Pensioners for Indy hat on. Okay, so I'm probably not the best person to tell you from a national point of view, but I've been involved in it for about a year or so now, and next week we'll tell you a lot more about it because we're having a special edition of the show that's where pensioners next Friday. Next Friday, so it's Pensioners for Indy. So Pensioners for Indy are taking over. Are taking over. Grey power or dyed blonde power. Anyway, there are very active groups here in Glasgow. The co-convener nationally is the one that organises most in Glasgow. Her name is Mary McCabe. Oh, Mary, yeah. She's a long-standing activist for independence of many years standing, a great person with lots of enthusiasm and energy. Good. And so they have a regular stall on a Thursday if anybody's in the town in Argyle Street, just near the bottom of Miller Street on a Thursday lunchtime.
and also there's a very active group in Edinburgh, one in Aberdeen, and there are other groups now also down in the borders, Dumfries and Galloway. They organise lots of really interesting events, often with music and so on. The idea is that at the last, as everyone probably knows, that at the last referendum, the group that voted overwhelmingly against independence was over, the elderly age group, whereas the young, I think it was 70%.
Yeah.
So the idea of Pensioners for Indy is to focus on activities by activism by older people in terms of independence. We have a lot of meetings and public events that people can come along to, but also to put out leaflets that are specifically specifically targeting those fears, the people that were lied to and told that they would lose their pension, with hard information to show that that's not the case, and also the stark truth that in Britain we have one of the lowest, if not the lowest, state pension in Europe. I mean, it's up when you see the graphic on the leaflet with the different levels. It's really quite shocking. So we treat pensioners are not doing well out of the union, basically.
I'm just reminded of Project Fear, right? Project Fear. That was a leaked email, wasn't it? Just giving a bit of background there from someone in the Unionist campaign, and they used the term Project Fear, and it was Project Fear. And one of the main target groups, of course, was pensioners.
That's right.
And the best way to frighten people, take their money away from them. If you take the money away from them, they're going to starve. People are going to starve. They're going to be in all sorts of trouble, right? It's the lowest form of political debate is to threaten people.
Especially pensioners are, they're already one of the poorest sections of society. Because we've got one of the worst pensions in Europe. That's right.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of rationale behind Pensioners for Indy. And if you go to a lot of the marches, we've got banners. We march. The Edinburgh group are very active as well. They go to a lot of the marches at Galashiels. They're going to Campbelltown soon. They were in Ayr recently. So that's the kind of things. And we've also got a singing group, as I mentioned.
Listen,
I use the term loosely when...
Wow, look where we're sitting, right? It's Indie Live Radio, right? Indie Live Radio. So when are we going to get the recording?
Well, next week, I'll have to talk to my technical person, but we'll see if we could maybe... I don't know if I would want to inflict live singing on you, but certainly we do have some recordings of us singing, and we could maybe play some of that. I mean, one of the songs that went down really well, like we've sung in public quite a few times now. At the Pensioners for Indy AGM, we sang "The Freedom Come All Ye," which I'm sure you know. Yeah. But we also sang a song that was composed by the group with political lyrics, sort of incorporating stuff about Brexit and independence and and so that went down really well. So if we can rake out a recording of that, we'll maybe inflict it on you next week.
Excellent.
Your listening figures will plummet. Biffy Clyro, we're not, I'm afraid.
Well, I'm sure you're a lot better than that. But I'm looking forward to getting that. Okay. So there you go. That's a big thing you've got to do. Pensioners for Indy, Project Fear, they purposely attacked it, right? That if you look at the main attacks were against pensioners. Also, the currency was a funny one, right? If you look about the world, right, countries that are from poor to the rich, right, they all managed to, come up with a currency, right? So we're not talking, this isn't rocket science, as they say, right? It's done. We can do it. It's just ridiculous. Even the founder of the Bank of England was Scottish and all that nonsense, right? So, it's just self-evident. Stuff's self-evident, right? But somehow we fell into that trap. But hopefully that won't happen again, right? I think, when they started down the road of that's the only option.
The problem is we are up against the full machinery of the British state with all like folk like you guys are trying to counteract that, but we are up against the propaganda machine. But I think people are beginning to see through that a bit now.
Yeah, here's hoping, and you know, we need people to be following us on Twitter, Facebook, our live stream channel, YouTube channel, right? And we're going to get. See how we've got our research department, Val, right? We've got our research department.
I am that soldier,
Val Marlin, right?
Or one of those soldiers.
I mean, it's fascinating building up Indie Live Radio, right? Another thing, right? And you'll be screaming. You will have to give up everything, right? We need to concentrate on, at some point, is getting our marketing department, promotional marketing department going.
I think you want somebody better looking for that. I think marketing promotions is for the younger and fairer of form.
No, we could do it, but you know, there's ways to do this thing, you know. But once the techie thing was the big thing that was stopping us, right? But the research department's coming along wonderfully. It's crystallising what we can do and all that. But we'll get round to do the marketing and promotions side of it, which isn't a big deal. It's just words, right?
Yeah, but that's really important.
That's hugely important. Okay. And we need to be tied into
Twitter,
pensioners friendly to get them promoting them and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, as well as other groups.
Working together with other groups.
You've got it. Do you know about our latest idea?
No.
I wish I could get Jelly on. I don't know why.
Do you want to come over here and talk into my microphone? No, I'm wondering if I should pop out to the door and see if Margaret's here. I'm worried.
I tell you what, I'm going to put on some music, right?
Okay.
And
sorry.
We'll all go do stuff that we need to get done, right? How's that? Okay.
This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio. This is indielive.radio.
Oh, we're back on. Well, too busy talking.
Sorry.
Travis got the better of us there. So a little update on Margaret from Glasgow, from North West. I don't know if you could...
You know what us West Enders are like south of the river, Kevin?
Yes.
It's a safari.
It's completely a totally different planet.
It's a foreign country.
Well, hopefully Jelly will track her down. Yeah. Jelly's off with your phone, yeah?
Yeah.
So Jelly's off with your phone valve to try and
she's gone astray, but she will be here soon.
We'll get her. We'll get her no matter what. But that was really good. We were talking also about we're doing a live stream here, right? Mm-hmm. So we're live streaming this out now. I'm telling you, right? we'll have to do tests sometimes when we're live. There is no ways around it. For example, I'm here trying to do this when I should be over there monitoring it because we just started this. It's like a bit of software that does a live stream and it also has these things called triggers.
Right.
Stay with me here, Val, right?
Okay.
Triggers. So if like the text music playing out, it flicks on the graphics. See, you've seen the graphics.
These graphics are excellent.
They're really cool.
Did you say they're by Indie Poster Boy?
By Indie Poster Boy, Colin Dunn. And I'm just trying to, his Twitter address is at Zark1. Zark1, Z-A-R.
I've seen him on Twitter, yeah.
Most people know it.
These graphics are fantastic, yeah.
So we've got some like 300, right? And it'll just play every time we put music on, it'll flick onto his graphics and start playing them, right? We've got a little jingle that plays along with it, which I need to change. It's not quite right, but that's another thing to do. That's cool. His stuff is just amazing. So big thanks to Colin Dunn for that. And his website is indieposterboy.com.
And you were saying that Yes Groups who are doing street stalls can use his materials?
Exactly.
It's very generous of him.
Again, if you like any of the stuff that you see come up, if you're watching a live stream, right, and you see that appearing, and you look at them, they're absolutely amazing, and you can use any of them. So
people would just like download the images and print them out?
Absolutely. And
get them duplicated?
Exactly. All they need to do is go to indieposterboy.scot.
Right.
Yeah, they're fabulous
I think that's a really important resource.
It's
I'm sure a lot of folk are already aware of it. I mean, his style is very recognisable. I've seen a lot of them before. They're very effective. They really are.
I've got a feeling he might be doing a crowdfunder or a GoFundMe.
Well, I would chip in for that, definitely.
You know, I think he is. Not sure, but there you go, folks. If you like what you're seeing, use them for Yes Groups. Get them, download them from indieposterboy.scot. Colin is on Colin Dunn, who does Indie Poster Boy. He's on Twitter, and that's at Zark1, which is ZARKWAN, but you probably know that anyway because you're probably following him if you're listening to us.
I think I am, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Right. So fascinating stuff with Jane as well. I love listening to Yes Groups from around Scotland, what they're up to. We've done quite a few now.
Mm-hmm. I've listened to quite a few, yeah. And
with this cool little setup we've got going now.
Have you spoken to the ones down in Dumfries and Galloway?
We have. They've got the Yes Hub.
Oh,
is it the
right,
Yes
okay.
Hub, the in the van thing?
Oh, aye.
In fact, you've just reminded me.
They're called Boomers for India, aren't they?
That's right, Boomers for India.
Yeah.
We need to get them back on, don't we? Got a lot of work to do there, Bob.
Marlene was telling me that you've given her a microphone now.
Oh,
so me and her, we're going to get our act together and try and be like wee roving reporters and things like that.
Well, the cool thing is, right, we've got 6 of these little microphones.
Oh, right, I want one as well.
Well, they're absolutely excellent, right? So we've got the mics, right? We just need to get a cable and a little lead thing, right? So we've got another 5, right? We could give one to yourself. We're all, Top Hat. Do you know Top Hat Davy? England's Top Hat Davy?
Yeah, I think I don't know him personally, but I've seen him around at marches and so on, I think.
Well, my thoughts are that we can hand these out to people, right? And they can go do their little thing. Yeah, interviews and all that.
You need to get these T-shirts you keep promising us.
You've got one up at, it's 2 Print in Shawlands.
I know, I went there last week and the guy said they weren't ready.
That's a shame, he's usually on the ball. But it should be ready this week.
Okay. Okay.
I should.
I'll go. No, you're busy. You've got loads to do. That'll be another little bit of research.
Yeah, that's a great little shop in Shawlands. It's in Allison Street, 2 Print.
Aye. Mm-hmm.
And well, I suppose we can tell everybody he's actually a big pro indie guy.
Well, good for him.
And I've actually seen him at. I was live streaming an event. It was one of the. I get lost. Right, it's up at the Velodrome. Right, they have all the counts up there.
Out of the near the Emirates, beside the Emirates.
Yeah, the Emirates.
Yeah, near Parkhead.
That's right. And
I know where you are.
I was up there running about, live streaming and doing stuff. And he came up and he goes, "Hey, Kevin." I went, "Oh God." No, I had to ask him. Right, I wasn't too sure if he was pro indie or not. And it goes, tell me. So it must have been a count.
Right? Must have been, yeah. Do you quite SLP. Often live stream at the count?
We cover all the counts.
Do you?
We cover all the counts. The last one we didn't.
Was that the European one? The last one?
We covered the referendum, right? But it was, I can't remember why we didn't. I think it was because it was pointless. It was just pointless.
It's a long night, the count, I must say.
But anyway, I'm distracting myself here. I was jumping about and I saw him and I thought, oh no, is he with Labour or him? You know, and I'm going, okay, I'm going to have to risk this. Okay, my T-shirt friend, who are you with? Who you with? And he nodded and went, goes, with you. It's like, thank God.
Oh, yeah.
So that's so I'm going to give him
relief.
Another plug. We get our Indie Live T-shirts and Indie Live Radio, Independence Live and Indie Live Radio T-shirts done at 2 Print in
Allison Street
in Shawlands in Glasgow. Okay, so there you go. Right, let's see. What about a little bit of music?
Yeah.
I think I won't put on any Sisters of Mercy for you or punk. So what about a bit of Kevin Gore? Do you like Kevin Gore?
I don't know Kevin Gore. I do quite like punk though.
All right, I do.
It's quite funny actually because you think of punks as being like young people, but I was watching a quiz show the other day and the guy. He said, oh yeah, I was a big punk fan, and he was like this wee old man with grey hair, and I think you forget that punk was in the 70s, so somebody that liked punk is now a pensioner, you know.
This is true.
I think I would prefer that to the Sisters of Mercy. I don't think that would be up my street.
It's not everybody's cup of tea, is it?
I like the Sex Pistols.
Do you know what? After see if JJ's listening, could you stick on some Sex Pistols? Nori would be turning.
Anarchy in the UK might be a bit appropriate at this juncture.
I'm going to message JJ to get his Anarchy in the UK. Folks.
Don't you think that's a bit appropriate for just now?
Well, daytime radio, a bit of the Sex Pistols.
You'll wake everybody up anyway.
JJ, please, for the love of God, get the Sex Pistols on for us. Okay, folks, I'm going to put on a bit of Kevin Gorgeous now.
This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio.
Okay, folks, we've got Margaret Malcolm in the office, so she'll be on soon. Okay, we've got the news coming up, so we'll be back live with Margaret after the news. Okay, bye now.
Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio.
Okay, welcome back to the studio. Now, before we continue, we've got a special request for pensioners everywhere. Val, tell us, what's the song?
God Save the Queen by the Sex Pistols.
Yay! Okay, folks, so...
for superannuated punks in their Zimmers, bouncing up, pogoing with their Zimmers everywhere.
Okay, here we go, folks. Let's reclaim our independence and democracy. It's God Save the Queen.
This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio.
Oh dear, Val. That was definitely Sex Pistols, but that was not God Save the Queen.
Well, never mind.
Even though they're
all good.
God Save the Queen.
There's no bad Sex Pistols tracks.
Totally
I'm sure nobody will mind.
Totally agree
and
with that.
We won't have offended the royalist cohort, so probably just as well.
Exactly, and what a good song. You know, we don't get to play out quality like that during the afternoon, but I think we should. You know, we should. Okay, in the office, we now have Margaret Malcolm from Glasgow Northwest. I'm just trying to sort out my cameras here. And wait, I'll say hello to you in a second once I sort this camera out, Margaret. Okay, there you go. We've got you. Right, Margaret, good to see you.
Thank you.
It's a bit of trouble getting here.
We had a bit of trouble. I have a notorious poor sense of direction. I am very sorry.
If you could just speak into that mic a wee bit better.
Right.
I'll pull it closer to you, Margaret. That's that. If you,
okay. Is that better?
That's better. Okay, so great to have you, and I'm glad you did find it. And thanks to Jilly over there.
Indeed.
I've been trying to sort out Jilly with the mic, but try it again, Jilly. We'll give a quick test while we're here. On you go.
Okay, quick test.
Got you.
Oh,
got you, Jilly.
Great.
Okay, so we'll come back to you in a little while. Maybe if you get some tweets or messages for us, right?
Yeah, will do.
Okay. Right, Margaret, Glasgow Northwest, yes, right?
Yep.
Tell us all about it. What are you up to?
Well, we've been up to quite a lot of things. We reformed, this is a group that were around before the 2014 independence referendum, and we decided to reform probably about the beginning of last year. A remaining strong cohort of us decided it was a good thing to get started again. And so mostly what we've been trying to do is to increase our numbers, because obviously the more people we have, the more activities we're able to carry out, and also to have a number of events which we hope will be of interest not only to the independence voting community, but to those who have yet to be persuaded. So I think that's been our major aim. So we had an event with Leslie Riddoch in Drumchapel. We had an event with Mike Russell in Jordan Hill. We had an event with Ruth Watson, the Scotland the Brand person, and another really good event with Philippa Whitford, Dr. Philippa Whitford on the NHS, because that's obviously a major issue if Brexit goes ahead.
It's the Holy Grail, isn't it, being able to reach out to the no community, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Were you able to get any feedback from your events at all?
We think so. We think so. What we tried to do for each event was not just to advertise within the independence community, but to circulate leaflets around the local area in which the event was going to be held. So on each occasion we put out probably about 5,000 leaflets in the local area, and we reckon somewhere between 10 and 20% of those turning up were non-pro-independence people. And particularly we were very pleased in Jordan Hill, which is where I live, which is not a very pro-independence area. So we got a really good response for the Mike Russell one in Jordan Hill. So that's good.
That's excellent. But again, you know, it's even though, right, we want to reach out to the new community, the no community, right, it's still really good that yesers hear these events because they can then talk about it to others.
Absolutely. So. And we got very positive responses. I mean, in each occasion we've had anything between 100 and 150 people attending the events, which we reckon is pretty good, really.
That's good, given it's not a campaign going on at the moment.
And given that we're still quite a small group. I think there's probably only about 20 of us functioning on a regular basis.
So we need a recruitment drive for Glasgow North West.
Yes, indeed we do.
And
indeed we do.
You're on Twitter.
We're on Twitter, Facebook.
Yep.
Twitter, Facebook, but no website.
No, we don't have a website. No.
Okay, no problem. So if you're listening, Glasgow Northwest, active group there.
Glasgow Northwest.
Yes, Glasgow Northwest. You know, you may have friends, if you're listening to this, friends that are in that area. You know, try and hook them up with Glasgow Northwest, right?
So the main areas are like Broomhill, Drumchapel, Knightswood, Scotston, Anniesland, these areas, Yoker, White Inch as well.
White Inch,
Even little bits of Partick maybe.
Even little bits of Partick.
I mean, I don't stay right in that area, but I'm a member of the group, so I mean, you don't have to stay in a certain area. It's very, you know.
We just want enthusiastic people.
Yeah, that are keen to work for independence.
Yep.
I just noticed there, right, we're actually coming up to the news in a couple of minutes, so we'll just chat away and it'll kick in, right?
Okie dokie.
I'll let you know. Right, 2 minutes to go. We were talking to Jane from Dundee earlier, and that was really interesting what they were doing. It was like a coffee thing they were doing in local communities, weren't they? And that seemed to be going down well. So it was like holding coffee events. I don't know, do you know much about what they were doing?
I think we have tried in the past to do that kind of thing. It's kind of variable depending on whether you can get a good footfall. We are a huge area.
That's true.
We are a huge area, so it's difficult to get some, an event somewhere that we could get a good footfall from a diverse group.
Right, okay. By the way, I was totally wrong about the news. It was because my laptop's in front of the clock that's on my software, radio software, I thought would come up to news.
No, because the news was at 1, wasn't it?
That's right. So we're fine. We don't need to panic. So what else have you been doing? Maybe stuff in social media or anything else?
Well, we've got a regular output from social media, mostly about the events that we're carrying out. And we've had some social events as well, which have been very successful. We had a race night and managed to raise quite a lot of money from our race night. So we're actually reasonably well endowed with cash at the present time. Good. We've had a pub quiz, which is very good.
A bit rowdy, I might add.
Oh dear.
We were robbed.
I was robbed too.
We've got
I was in your team.
So you were.
That might not be a coincidence how we didn't win, Margaret.
We've got JJ. He does a show for us 3-4 nights during the week, and he runs a quiz. He starts at like 10 o'clock. I think that gets a bit rowdy actually. So just to let you know about that.
As the evening wears on.
And the alcohol flows rather more freely.
Do you know the other event, Margaret, as well, that was really fantastic was when we took part in the National.
That's right, that was terrific.
We took part in the Nationals campaign to get the paper out to people who don't normally read it. So we took 1,000 copies of the National, and we had 3 street stalls in locations at Anniesland, Knightswood, down in Partick, Scotston as well, and we gave out 1,000 copies on one Saturday. So that was a really good event as well.
That was pretty successful, because I think people who ordinarily wouldn't read that kind of newspaper were saying, "Oh yeah, I'll have a look at that. That looks interesting." So that was good.
Oh yeah, that's right. Are they still doing that? The National? Are they still looking for?
I
think it was too expensive. I think the latest thing is that they will still do it with Yes Groups, but you have to like pay a little bit of money towards it, but you get a vastly reduced price, but you have to take a minimum number. So it's something that we might look at doing in the future.
I think it is.
That'd be worth letting people know about, actually, on the radio. You know, we can...
Could maybe get somebody from like Callum Beard or somebody to come in and have a chat with you.
I did send him a message a couple of nights back on Twitter, and I said to him to come back into the office because we did have him on. I think he was the first. He was the first one we had on in the radio.
Was he?
Callum Beard. It was through in my other little room. Going to have to show you this room later on. You won't believe it, Margaret. Right? It's tiny. Yeah. But it was a death trap because there's cables everywhere. Like, imagine like this wee area here with all the Independence live gears you can see up there. All this fitted into this tiny broom cupboard, as we called it. So we'll definitely get Callum on and we'll talk about that. You know how they can other groups can get hold of these.
When we were handing out, actually, one of the people that we handed out to was Callum Baird.
Good.
Who we failed to recognise.
Do you know what? You're not going to believe this. You just reminded me of something, right? After the next song I put on, I'll dig this out. Callum Baird, right, singing. I've got a song with Callum
Singing
Baird. I'll tell you what.
I was wondering that, Julie.
Do you know what? It'd be good if we could get people to send us in. God Save the Queen or Anarchy in the UK, because that's the one we wanted to put on, wasn't it? Anarchy in the UK.
Yeah, I thought it was appropriate for the current situation.
But the only one we had on it said God Save the Queen, which it wasn't. But I'll try and see if I can find Callum's stuff someplace. We've definitely got it. But anyway, I'll check later on. But we've still really got to be really positive about the indie movement, haven't we?
Absolutely.
You know, what was that saying? I think you mentioned it earlier on. Live as if you're
in early
start
days
of a
better
nation.
Yeah,
the Alistair Gray.
And sometimes it's quite difficult, isn't it? You know, but we should be. So we've got to keep it positivity, keep it up there. I think we touched on this earlier on as well. Like there's a difference. We're more sober this time. You know, in 2014, 13 and that, there was this complete excitement, all age groups.
That's right, party atmosphere.
You know, it was absolute party atmosphere. Yep. But I feel it's more kind of sober and focused this time.
And we have to persuade people not to be apathetic. I think that's my major worry, is that people in Scotland have had a lot of elections. And for those of us who are active, that's okay.
Yeah.
You get a bit tired, but it's okay. But if you're not really all that interested in politics, then it's very difficult to get these people out to vote.
Yeah, the Radical Independence campaign played a huge part in Glasgow and the big cities.
Dundee as well.
Yeah, and you know, I'd like to see them making a comeback when this. You know,
they had a lot of young people out, and so we went out with the RIC people quite a lot of times, and we always got a lot of volunteers when we were out with the RIC people.
It's motivating that kind of younger group, isn't it, to get it going again. But it is hard to keep that momentum going when there's not an actual date set. I'm aware of that, right? And there'll be a bit of burnout in that. But doing Indie Live Radio, right? We're talking about promo for Indie Live Radio and Independence Live, you know, connecting into Yes groups, making sure that they're aware of us. For example, we've got an iOS and Android app, Margaret, right?
Yep.
And that can be put in phones.
That's useful to know.
And it's version 1 of the app, right? But it's a good enough app. But what we do, Margaret, you may not be aware, is we put out, there's 23 videos done by Phantom Power, right?
Yep.
We actually randomly play out the audio from those 23.
Oh, right, that's good.
You know, maybe once every 8 hours, it'll randomly select 24 hours a day, right? And we're just started, right? So once we've actually got a research department. It's one thing at a time, right? It takes time setting these things up, but research department, Val and Marlon and
Marlene, you know Marlene.
The very busy Val.
But then we'll be looking at the promo side, but when we really need to connect into a lot of Yes groups, right? So I want to tell you that now, right? It's really important. iOS and Android. Okay, so this is Yes Group Friday on indielive.radio. Norrie is usually at the desks, isn't he? But he's away having a bit of a break at the moment. So stuck with me and the Sex Pistols and Val.
Who can ask for more?
He'll be screaming. If I wasn't so busy doing the tech and all that, I'm
See, when you
telling
said you're stuck with me and the Sex Pistols, I thought you meant me and Jilly.
and Jelly.
I was wondering what you were going to say there, Kevin.
I was trying to get the camera over to Jelly, but there she is. Oh, she flipped back. It's a bit of techie issues over the live stream.
That's fine, I can't face the camera and do what
Yes, this is true. But Jelly doing a great job over there as well. So all progress for Indie Live and Indie Live. And your backwards ways for Jelly. You can't see her. The camera keeps flicking over. I've got techie things set up. Okay, where was I before I get completely...
Sorry, I
threw myself?
interrupted you. You were talking about Norrie being away and getting a well-deserved
absolutely.
holiday.
He does a power good. He does amazing stuff. So I really hope he's enjoying himself. And he missed the Sex Pistols. I don't think he'd have been too keen if he heard that.
Does he not like them? No.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of sweary words in it as well.
All right, okay.
But we'll just, these things happen.
So it's all right. Most of the pensioners are half deaf anyways. Like, sorry, I'm only joking. I don't mean that.
So Margaret, in the news, what's the big things that's caught your attention?
Obviously, Brexit is there as a major thing, isn't it? And the usual failure of the Scottish Tory MPs to stand up for Scotland. They are apparently all but one of them supporting and loyal to Boris in the event of Boris becoming the Prime Minister.
They're snakes, aren't they?
And indeed, I read this morning that there was a rumour that Ross Thompson is going to replace Ruthie as the leader of the Scottish Tories.
Oh my God! I heard he was maybe going to replace Mandela's, because he's major sooking up to Boris, but replace Ruth as...
It was Brian Taylor. It was a tweet from Brian Taylor this morning.
Oh my
So there you go.
There you go. You heard it here now. You heard it here first. Hot news.
Twitter will go
Margaret
mad.
has now just joined us, the Independent Indie Live radio crew.
That's a scoop, Margaret.
That's a scoop from Margaret. Interestingly enough, right, again we're talking about Ross Thompson earlier on, because somebody put out a tweet and it was a clip from
Politics
Live of him saying how we all basically hate the English, right? To paraphrase him.
The usual,
right? Yep. So I retweeted saying, like, we invite you onto the show, you can talk to an indie audience and we'll get someone from English Scots for Yes to come on the show and he can tell us and give us, why we're all hate the English apparently, right? It's civic nationalism, folks, not blood and soil nationalism, which I deplore, and
indeed.
I don't know anybody that doesn't, right? In fact, we see that seeping in down south.
Kevin, I heard something even worse this morning on the way over here. I was listening to Radio Scotland, to the phone-in programme, the morning phone-in. It was Stephen Jardine that was chairing it, who I think is a pretty even-handed chairperson usually. And it was a discussion about the rise of the far right, and they had... I didn't quite catch the name of this person. I'm not sure if he was a journalist or an academic. I'm going to find out later. But basically what he was saying about the far right, and he was sort of saying that, going back to that old trope of the SNP having their origins in fascism, and he was trying to make out that the SNP and Scottish nationalism was a symptom of the rise of the far right and populism, and he was lumping them together with the Brexit Party and UKIP.
That's a scandal, isn't it?
It was absolutely shocking.
So far removed for the reality here, it's quite frightening, and we've got a state broadcaster that belongs to another country here, right? It is not our
no, to be fair, I would have to be fair that Stephen Jardine, the Radio Scotland host, did pick him up on it and called him out on it, but there wasn't anyone else. And then I got here, so I stopped listening. So it may well be that someone else, rebutted. There was more of a strong rebuttal, but it was really quite shocking what he said. And normally I would have tweeted something in, but I was coming here, so I didn't get the chance to pursue that.
That's a kind of regular thing that they say about us.
It was really quite extreme, though.
No matter how often you rebut it comes back again and again.
It's part of the Project Fear, isn't it?
Yep.
You know, you're anti-English, etc., and they keep banging it out.
The other positive thing that I heard, one positive thing that I heard from the media this morning, there's an article in The Guardian, believe it or not, who are not always very positive about us.
I could tell you stories about them.
It was from Simon Jenkins.
Oh, I saw that one.
Writing about the fact that Scotland's drug problem is Westminster's problem, and a really good account of very positive account about the Scottish Government and what they've done in terms of public health things, and saying Scotland needs the chance to sort out the drug problem. So that makes a change.
Absolutely, because it's not a devolved thing, but they can do some things, right?
Do you not think as well, though, that a lot of English people who visit Scotland will know from personal experience that we're not anti-English?
Yep.
You know, like when we're doing our street stalls for like SNP or for Yes, and in like Partick or in Byes Road where we tend to do them, there's a lot of English people, and when we speak to them, they'll say, "Oh, we can't vote. We're from England," and you know, we make it clear that, you know, welcome to Glasgow. Hope you enjoy your stay. And I think, you know, like I was also at a book festival down in the Borders in Wigton, and there was a lot of English people there because obviously it's quite near the north of England. And just chatting to people that were sitting next to me, they were in no doubt as to these people. The event I went to was a discussion with Nicola Sturgeon, with the author Damien Barr. It was a fantastic event, and the woman next to me, who was from somewhere down in the Leafy Shires, was saying, "I wish we had somebody like Nicola Sturgeon," because, you know, she was quite clear that the type of politics that we have here is so much more progressive than where she lived down in the southwest of England. And I think sometimes because we're so used to seeing ourselves reflected through the prism of the unionist media, that we forget that there are a lot of people out there in England and that are not daft, you know, and can see through that. Increasingly now, I think that the anti-SNP bias is, in the last few years, has now been turned full throttle onto the Labour Party.
The Labour Party,
And I think their chickens are coming home to roost, and they're beginning to understand just that establishment bias and the use of the broadcasting, you know, apparatus as a propaganda tool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the mainstream media was certainly our enemy. There was nobody backing us during 2014. We had, you know, it was Scotland and Sunday? I can't remember, but it was the Herald.
The
Sunday version.
Herald.
That was it, wasn't it?
Yep.
And
then it gradually turned bad.
And then it turned into another unionist paper, didn't it?
Yep.
And we got the Sunday National.
We've got the Sunday National, yeah.
Yep.
But in terms of everything else we get bombarded with, including, you know, BBC, you know, it's no wonder they don't want to devolve the BBC to us.
Yeah.
But, you know, the newspapers as well. And it's the headlines, isn't it?
Absolutely, because if you read down, you often get the information.
Yeah.
But the headlines tell you something completely different.
The facts in the actual article often contradict the headline.
Yep.
And, you know, I remember, like, walking into my local co-op on a daily basis and being really raging, right? Looking at the headlines, and I'm thinking, everybody's walking past these. Looking at the headlines, this is in Shawlands, co-op in Shawlands, and you know, constant bombardment.
Subliminal messages, isn't it? Because that's all you see.
And you know, the little boards they put outside as well with a thing on it. I'm going, geez, you know, but we had the hope, didn't we, that we could overcome that, but it tripped us up. Yeah,
I don't know how you combat it other than with social media. I mean, the National is a great help, but I don't know how you combat it other than with social media and local yes groups, because people are still being bombarded. And I think I can think of people that I know who are not particularly pro-independence who are starting to say, well, of course the BBC is biased, don't watch the BBC anymore. So I think that's an improvement.
Well, that is good news. Okay, I tell you what, I think we should have a little break, because I have found Callum Baird.
Sing.
His little song. So Callum Baird from the National, right? Here you go, man.
This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio.
Okay, folks, we are back. Right, that was quite. I think we're quite impressed with Callum Baird from the National.
Fantastic.
Very good.
If he ever thinks of giving up the day job, he'll be okay.
I think you're right there.
Yeah, honestly, that sounds like a professional band.
The boy done well.
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay, so well done, Callum, for that one. Maybe we'll get you in the office soon, because there's loads of stuff to talk about. Okay, so where did we leave it again? We're talking about Ross Thompson.
Ross Thompson.
All right, so I tweeted out right? That little snippet from the politics show, right? I tweeted out and asked him into the office, but I get quite a lot of retweets, but he's not get back to us. Are we surprised? I mean, you can get away with that if you're a politician. You can say what the hell you want, as with the Orkney Four.
Yep.
What's his name at the Orkney Four? The
Alistair Carmichael.
Alistair Carmichael. He get away with that, right? Because he's a politician.
Indeed.
Because he was a politician. His job description, a politician, you can say
as
what you want.
did Kezia Dugdale,
Yeah.
I may add.
So, you know, there you go. You can say what you want as a politician, and you can get away with it. And you know, Ross Thompson saying that we're anti-English is just a scandal.
Yep.
Again, but they keep repeating it. Again, it's the mantra. They're told to do that. Just repeat the same simple slogans. We've got these simple slogans. Just keep repeating them. We're too poor.
And the worst of it is
a
lot of these simple slogans repeated and repeated. They do begin. That was a tactic of fascism, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they do begin to take hold. You know, this people they stick in people's minds.
You know, and while, I mean, listen to us, right? I can't remember who it was Ronald Reagan or something like that, right? Forgive me. But say something like, see if you're busy defending yourself, you're busy losing.
Yeah, that's right.
Something like that.
That's right.
So here are we talking about this.
That's right.
When we should be talking about the positive case
right.
for Scottish independence, right?
And that's all the opposition do, is just attack us over and over.
So, you know, I mean, we've been talking about Ross Thompson. If you're busy defending, you're not busy talking about the positives.
Yep.
So
that's very true.
On that note, let's talk positively about Scottish independence, reclaim democracy.
Absolutely.
Right, because the EU vote highlighted the fact, right, even though 62% of people voted to remain in the EU, right, we've been turfed out. That is such a big decision that for the United Kingdom, if you believe that there's 4 states there, 4 countries, right, are we actually saying that we can get, with something so big, be allowed to be dragged out? That's
of course we shouldn't. Of course we shouldn't. And in fact, they keep talking about the decisive UK vote for Brexit. It was 52%.
Yes.
That is not decisive by any stretch of the imagination.
Especially taking into consideration that, you know, it's been proved that that they broke the Leave campaign broke electoral law, but the Director of Public Prosecutions decided it wasn't in the public interest to pursue, even though and there's all sorts of shady dealings to do with Anne Banks and dark money. It really is. I mean, like if you start looking into it, you sound like a conspiracy theorist, but sometimes that's because there is a conspiracy.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and actually, I've got a little. We've got all these little cool little clips on here, right? And I've got one with Ruth Watson, and I'll put that on in a little while. Well, okay, but yeah, I mean, we talk so much about trying to combat this stuff like Ruth Watson. We've tried to be positive. For example, we've got English Scots for Yes are part of what we do.
Yep.
They do podcasts for us, right, to get that message out there. Again, it's that we're inclusive, we're civic nationalism, we abhor blood and soil nationalism. That's not for us, right? So that for us, that's a little bit.
Yep.
Trying to put get the English Scots for Yes.
That's very important.
And also all under one banner.
Yep.
Bring your flags from wherever you were born, right? Just bring them along. We're inclusive.
And do you know, talking about, Jane was talking in Dundee about, working in disadvantaged or more communities where there's a higher level of deprivation. If you look into some of these communities, into like food banks and school uniform banks, a lot of the good work that's been done to support people, the vast majority of these people are pro-independence. They really are. Yep. I mean, Margaret herself, she's probably too modest to tell you, but she's also very heavily involved in community initiatives like the
Drum
food
Chapel,
bank.
the Drum Chapel
You want to
food
talk
bank.
a wee bit
Oh my
about
goodness!
that, Margaret?
We've, just to let you know, Margaret, we've with my Independence Live hat on, we've covered an awful lot of stuff to do with food banks. Dennis from Lofts and Fishies, as well as other food banks, we've live streamed, I interviewed them, and it was one of the things we did to highlight. When you're not a democratic country and you don't have control of the full powers, you can't tackle these things. Like food banks is such a scourge.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely. You get single parents who are working a couple of jobs and still aren't earning enough, to feed their kids.
That's
and
poverty and employment.
Feeling ashamed to come along. So we try very hard to make it a pleasant place to come. We let people choose the kind of food that they take. I mean, we have limits on how much per family, but we let people choose rather than just give them a generic food bag. So we work really very hard at that. But the food banks will often say that the people who are most active in being helpful and supportive in terms of contributions are the SNP. I mean, we recently had a crisis at Drum Chapel and we put it out a lot in our Northwest Twitter account and we got a very big response, which was terrific, really.
That's so good to hear, and actually maybe at some point I'll talk to you about maybe coming on to talk about food banks.
Yep.
Right, because I'd like to make that a show.
Yep.
But what you must hear, Margaret, the different stories from people that are affected by universal credit, getting sanctions, is so scandalous.
It is.
And it's not unless because it doesn't, all that stuff doesn't get reported in the media as often as you would like it to, right?
Yep.
You might get pieces here, but it doesn't get reported in the mainstream media.
I think people in poverty have been demonised by our mainstream media, and that's one of the major problems. But I mean, I worked in a hospital in Govan for my professional life, and I saw a lot of poverty, and I know that a lot of the problems that people were bringing were caused by poverty, by poor opportunities. So it's very, very important that we get it out there that it is important to deal with these things and not to accept that poverty is inevitable. It's not inevitable.
We live in one of the richest countries in the developed world, and yet we're one of the most unequal, where the gap between rich and poor is widening, where real wages are actually, I think we're one of the few countries I saw recently where, the economy is growing, albeit quite small, in a small way, but real wages are actually falling, which is unique in Europe. And we talked earlier about having the lowest pensions, and what Margaret's saying about the poor being demonised. It's this Tory, the government, and I'm sorry, but Labour have bought into it, and the Lib Dems sided. They went into coalition with the Tories, and if you look at the voting, they talk a good game, some of these MPs, but if you look at their voting record on terms of austerity and benefits, half of them are as punitive as the Tories are in terms of the legislation that they've voted for, in terms of hitting disabled. It's the vulnerable people. As Margaret said, it's not even just people on benefits. So universal credit is just an absolute disgrace. But it's people who are working full time and can't afford to buy basic stuff for their kids and put and be, they're living from 1 week to the next. And if they have one thing, a washing machine breaks down or something, they're in trouble. It's just shocking that if you look at the average incomes of people, back, say, 10, 20, 30 years ago compared to now, compared to the cost of living and the cost of rents and the cost of property, it's absolutely, it beggars belief.
Yeah, again, an independent Scotland. Food banks are a scourge.
They are.
They're absolute scourge. The rise in food banks was done purposely by Cameron and his big society. They like to couch these things in lovely terms like big society, inclusive big society. But give me a second, folks.
That's Carrie.
That's Carrie and Paulbert.
Yep.
I tell you what, that was Karine interrupted us there. We will get her back on, right? That was my mistake. I took my eye off the ball because we're talking about this. I was really getting so drawn into it, I forgot to look at what was coming up next. So that was my fault, and I am definitely going to get Karine back up. But you know, an independent Scotland, you're telling me we can't alter society in a different way, because the Tories are about looking after their own pockets, right, and using the mainstream media to take people's eye off the ball and blame people. Absolutely. Right, they're blaming immigrants from the EU. Yep. You know, when when
actually the immigrants from the EU mostly contribute very positively to our economy.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and they're always looking for people to blame, take the eye off the ball. You know, we've got
blame the other.
Yeah.
Other. It's othering people all the time.
And the fact of the matter is, we've got all these big corporates, right? They're not, a lot of them aren't paying tax. They're not being chased for their tax. You know, so
and that's one of the reasons for Brexit, isn't it?
That's
Jilly
right.
wants to say something there, I think.
Wait there, Jilly. Jilly's coming in.
Kevin.
Jilly's coming in. Wait there till I get her in. Okay, Jilly, you're in. Can you hear me?
It was more a kind of a subtle when you're ready, but thank you.
Oh, right, sorry.
It was just because we've been going around the subject of Brexit, obviously independence. We talked about Ruth Watson and Keep Scotland the Brand. Well, I just retweeted Keep Scotland the Brand tweet about clear labels and provenance, and I had over-tweeted and said Keep Scotland the Brand is a campaign and information hub which is especially important now in Scotland with Brexit and the threat or actual loss of protected geographical status, and I hashtagged food and drink. Now, wonderfully, Food Manufacturing UK have retweeted. So that's rather nice. So I think that shows that it's not just about our own provenance.
No.
You know, Cornish pasties, Arbroath Smokies, Melton Mowbray whatever. It's everybody's thing, and that's actually Keep Scotland the Brand are very good at pointing that out.
I noticed recently one of the Tory MSPs did a tweet about how wonderful it was that Ayrshire Tatties were now a protected brand, and people just ripped her apart because they're like, they have just been granted, they just got granted special status, but that'll, as soon as Brexit kicks in, supported by her party, that'll go out the window because they're protected because we're part of the EU.
Yes.
And all of these things are going to be on a sugary peg once we start to try and negotiate God save us, a trade deal with America.
And there we come into the subject of the media and how you have to fight through all the misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda.
Well, I've got news for you, all right. I'm talking about potatoes. I have found the Ruth Watson Scotland the Brand potatoes. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
Please do, and it's wonderful.
Here goes. Hopefully I can get this working.
Last time I was here, it was porridge was the big game.
Porridge was.
So it's potato tatties this
we're on
week.
Potatoes with Ruth Watson. What I'm going to try and do here is I'm going to actually try and run this out in the live stream as well. I've just got to be careful, don't mix it with the music. So here goes.
Scotland the Brand, it takes into account tourism, it takes into account textiles, it takes into account engineering, medicine. I mean, we as a nation are recognised for being a nation of innovators and all about quality. So when the Kenyans decided that they wanted to develop a potato, because quite frankly everything in life comes back to vegetables, when the Kenyans decided that they wanted to develop a potato that was going to feed their people, be suitable for their climate, provide a source of income, they sort of looked around the world and said, well, where can we go? What can we do? And they looked at Scotland, because Scotland's reputation as a seed potato exporter is unrivaled. The Dutch are really keen to rival us, and we will find out that to our cost if there's a no-deal Brexit and tariffs on our exports go up. So Morocco, for example, would have to pay 40% more for our tatties. It's not going to happen. So the Dutch are actually really keen on there being a no-deal Brexit because their exports are going to just go through the roof. So the Kenyans looked at Scotland's seed potatoes. And one of the reasons our seed potatoes are so good is because our weather is so rubbish. So So this beautiful black soil gets really cold in the winter, lots of snow, and that means that most years the nasty bugs and beasties that are in the soil that could promote disease are kept in check. We also have an extremely diligent science base, agricultural science base, that checks the soil and checks the tatties. And we have a farming base which is very professional, and they work with the scientists. So everybody knows what's happening with the potatoes. We've got tatty rogers who check the potatoes. So by the time a potato is exported to, for example, Kenya, the farmers buying it know that they are buying a disease-free quality product. And there's not a lot of places in the world that can give those guarantees in the way that Scotland does. So the Kenyans looked around and went, Scotland, we'll have you. Ask me your tatties, let's get some of your scientists and your farmers out, and let's get busy. So then they thought, we'd like, let's get a potato institute to go with this tatty creation. And it was the architect in Glam, it was the wee village that I look across onto, that got the contract for developing this Kenyan Potato Institute. Now, the reason why it matters for us to be aware of our brand, 80% of the seed potatoes exported from the United Kingdom come from Scotland. When the Tatties project in Kenya was declared a success, you go online, you will see half of the papers describe it as a great British success story. Now, I do not begrudge the tatty farmers in Kent or Jersey or Yorkshire their successes. I wish them all the very best. But if you're talking market share, if you're talking about a great British success story, there's nothing to stop an external importer looking, well, if it's all the same, we'll go down there. That's not the point. The point is, it's a Scottish success story, it's our success story, let's get some of that back. And also for our reputation. We don't want our reputation to be sullied by substandard seed tatties, quite frankly. So...
Well, that was really interesting, wasn't it?
Very much so, yeah.
So there you go. There's more to potatoes and crisps and beans and whatever, you know. So we're coming up to the news. We've got about another 5 minutes. I was going to play. It's a shame. What was it again?
Karine Polwart.
Karine,
Freedom Call.
Karine. I'm going to try and get
Great song.
that going again. But any comments on potatoes?
Only that you don't see as many Ayrshire tatties as you used to when I was young. It was a big event when the Ayrshire tatty season came round.
No, absolutely.
Who was it that tweeted recently that when I can't remember, somebody had tweeted recently or put it on Facebook that they used to work in a grocer's, and when the Ayrshire tatties arrived, all the wee women would come out with their string bags and be queuing up to get their tatties. I think it's somebody I know, I can't remember, but it was quite interesting.
I remember down in Ayrshire, down by Auchinleck, we used to jump about the fields grabbing all these big, turnips. Yeah. And, it was a wash.
Your misspent youth.
Yeah, it was.
I used to go to the tatty houken when I was younger, but it was very hard work. It was really hard work. The berries is much more fun. It's not as hard work, and you can only pick. As you go along. Well, you can only then if you eat them, you don't get paid so much because you're paid by weight. But you can only pick berries when it's a lovely day, when it's dry. You can't pick berries in the rain, so that's probably where you get the expression, it's the berries, because it was always nice weather when you were picking.
Right, I tell you what, I'm really scared about trying this break note thing, right, because see if I kick this off, there's a good chance we might go straight onto the news.
Oh, really?
It's how this software works.
Okay.
So, do you know what? A lot of times when I'm doing this live, right, a lot of it's experimental.
Right.
And we'll see what happens with this, right?
Oh, you can't get the sack, Kevin.
This is a good
You're
point. I might dock myself some wages. Oh, see? It did sound bad.
You can't go straight to Karine.
No, it didn't work. Listen, got it now.
Well done.
glyd sílster gaudi ar the bee, but there's meer nor.
This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio. This is IndieLive.radio. Unfortunately, we cannot legally live stream music. Tune in to IndieLive.radio for audio.
We just realised the time, didn't we, folks? It's coming up. We're finishing at 2 o'clock, right? And we forgot to say cheerio.
That fair flies in when you're enjoying yourself.
And I've got Jilly on as well, Jilly. Oh, I better get. Let me get the.
I'm fine. I'm just perspiring here.
He's perspiring, not so good. Okay, so so I hope you enjoyed your time in the
I did.
studio,
It was very interesting. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, I definitely want you back in to talk about feedback at some point.
Okie dokie.
And spread the word about Indie Live Radio.
Will do. Okay,
and we've got those 2 apps, iOS and Android.
Good.
See, it's great. I can do this sales pitch, right? while I've got, I'm interviewing someone, so they can't say no.
Great.
It's the way to
and
do
I'll
it,
be back next Friday for Pensioners for Indie.
That should be a cracker. Yeah.
Don't build this up too much, Kevin. Don't build people's. Don't build it up. And
are you singing?
No, but we might play.
That would be good.
We might play. We won't be singing live, but we might play a recording of our.
If you can get that
song.
recording to me,
yeah,
we'll get it up. Right?
I'll see Marlene about that. She's got a lot of that on file.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, we've got about 30 seconds left.
Cheerio.
So positive things for independence.
With so many good people working towards it, I don't think it can fail this time.
How about getting rid of food banks?
Get rid of food banks would be terrific. I mean, I think positive things are we have to keep hoping to convert the unconverted as yet, and we can do that. We can do that when we try. And
not in an aggressive way, just calm, persistent and positive, like what you said, positive.
Oh, Jilly, too late. We're going to go. So too late. Bye. Bye, folks.
Cheerio.
livestream music. Tune in to indielive.radio for audio.